Hello and welcome to the NFL Abroad podcast. In this episode, me and Minnie will be taking a look at all of the Week 14 games and giving you our predictions. We kick off the week on Thursday Night Football with the Steelers versus the Pats. Both of these teams come into this game with backup quarterbacks, ready to showcase their skills. But for me personally, I think it's going to be another very low-scoring game. The Patriots have conceded no more than 10 points in the last three games, but they actually managed to lose all three. That's how terrible they've been, and I think the Steelers are more than likely going to find a way to win this game. They've just got slightly more talent, really, in the entire team. Both defenses are very good, but I think the Steelers are just going to edge this one. Just trust Mike Tomlin and that team a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, since they got rid of Matt Canada a couple of weeks ago, it was the first time the Steelers went over 400 yards. We expect to see that against the Cardinals, and it just didn't turn out like that. So, not sure whether that was weather permitting or not, but it was certainly same for both teams. But the Steelers just couldn't seem to get going. However, I think this week they've got a little bit more on offense. As you said, both backup quarterbacks coming in. I think I trust Trubisky more than Zappi, which I don't think I've ever said that I trust Trubisky before. It's going to be a bit of a weird game. Like you said, low scoring. I don't think the Patriots have put many points up recently. They put 0 points up against the Chargers in a strange 6-0 loss last week. What were your thoughts on that game? What a strange game.
Well, honestly, I didn't watch that game live, and then obviously catch up on all the highlights on Monday, Tuesday. That game, I just thought, I'm not going to waste my time watching a 6-0 victory to the Chargers. So I've not even looked at it, and I've seen parts of the game where, both teams look terrible, to be honest. But I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up, I've not actually watched that one fully.
There wasn't really that much to watch, if I'm honest. How the NFL formed some highlights out of that game is beyond me, I'll never know. But with all that said, anyways, give me the Steelers. I don't think the Patriots are going to win a game for the rest of the season, to be fair. I think they're tanking the season now and hoping for the best draft picks possible. So, moving on then, we've got another team that's struggling on offense in the New York Jets against the rookie CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans, who got another massive win against the Broncos last week. That sort of went all the way down to the wire, and the Broncos had a chance to win the game and ultimately bottled it. I think they ran out of downs. Interception problems for the Broncos, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The Texans, they've excited me all season. They continue to excite me. I love the CJ Stroud story right now, and that defense certainly stepped up when it mattered. Will Anderson, he went for a couple of sacks. Can probably see him get to Tim Boyle again this week. Just don't think the Jets are gonna score an offense. I do believe Zach Wilson is going to be coming in this game. He's obviously struggled a lot this season. Every quarterback has it, the Jets, to be fair, but I don't think it really matters who they put there, including Aaron Rodgers, because that offensive line is non-existent and it's just going to lead to further injuries. With regards to Rodgers, actually, I do think they should wait until the 2024 season. I don't think there's any point in risking bringing him back at this stage and potentially getting further injuries. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, there's no point in bringing Aaron Rodgers back, rushing him back from what should have been a season-ending injury, for the sake of going like 6-10 or something. What is the point if he re-injures that injury? It could be the end of his career. So why would you risk that for a nothing season? We're pretty adamant they're not Super Bowl contenders anyway. Very unlikely they're going to reach the playoffs at this point. So it's just a risk not worth taking.
Yeah, I agree on that. They opened the practice window up a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago now, for Rodgers. I do believe he came out and said that he wanted to play, but like I said, beyond that offensive line, I just think that you're risking further injuries and probably writing him off for, that's it, writing his career off, and just giving him no more chance to play. So, but going back onto the Texans against the Jets, I see it being another win for the Texans. That AFC South is looking really strong now. We've got the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans all looking at a playoff spot. So, yeah, give me the Texans. They're going to continue their march.
Yeah, I'm with you completely on this one. The Texans have been improving. Each game, it feels like this season, they're just finding a way to win like they did against the Broncos. We know how good CJ Stroud is. Unfortunately, he lost his number one receiver in Tank Dell. He's out for the season. But, Nico Collins certainly stepped up. And they've got other weapons on the offense as well who seem to be getting better each and every week. But for me, especially last week and even the week before as well, I think it was, it's a defense that has really, really impressed me for the Texans side. Derek Stingley, he had another 2 picks last week, which followed up from one the week before. Will Anderson Jr., he's having a great season. And obviously under D'Amico Ryan, who was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, this defense is absolutely elite when it matters. And for me personally, that's what won them the game last week against the Broncos. With the game on the line, it was, the defense that stood up strong and, got them across the line. So I will, of course, be taking the Texans in this one, and I think it will be an absolute blowout. Next up, then, we have the LA Rams taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I do think this is going to probably be a closer game than people are anticipating. I believe the Ravens are coming off a bye week this week, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, so, this Ravens team are arguably the best team in the AFC right now. They've had extra time to prepare for this Rams game. And ultimately, I do think that's going to be the pivotal point in this game. I do think the Ravens are going to win. That defense is probably the best in the league at the moment. But let's not take anything away from the Rams. They've been looking quite good as of late. We know they can be a dangerous team when they play the best stuff. They've got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, he played amazing last week. So, it's certainly not going to be, I won't write off the Rams in this one by any means, but I think the Ravens are just too strong at the minute, and I expect them, in that bye week, they've been working on the offensive receiving cores that's struggled at times this season, but I expect them to clean up the mistakes this week and get the victory.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up then, and I can't quite find it, the money lines and the handicaps of this game. I do think the Ravens are heavy favourites, which was a bit of a surprise. I'll have to confirm that. But the Rams, they looked phenomenal last week against what is the number one defence in the Cleveland Browns. My only concern is Cooper Kupp. I do believe he went to the Blue Medical Tent or picked up somewhat of an injury, so we'll have to assess that and see how he is for this game. I think that'll be a big part whether he's going to be available or not. Do you know any more information on that?
No, I'm not sure. I think he did come back into the game after he was injured, but he wasn't looking his best, that's for certain. So we'll see how he's progressed this week, and I expect him to play at the weekend, but I'm not sure the severity of his injury.
Yeah, I've just checked actually. The Ravens are minus 7.5 point favourites in this game, so that's a big handicap. I do think they're good enough to get that, but like you said, I agree with you. To be fair, I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be a close game. The Ravens have had more time to prepare, as you said, but does the Rams beating the Browns give them a bit more momentum coming into this game?
Yeah, well, they certainly could do. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. The Browns weren't the best last week, but you can't take anything away from the Rams. They beat one of the best defenses in the league last week. They're coming up against another very strong defense this week. So again, I wouldn't put it past them. They know how to beat these good teams, and it's gonna be a tough task for the Ravens for sure.
Yeah, just a couple of big injuries that the Ravens picked up a couple of weeks ago, though. Obviously, Mark Andrews, he's out for the season. That's going to be a massive miss. I think that could potentially sort of scamper their plans in terms of going all the way this year. Losing OBJ as well, I'm not sure how long he's out for. He's obviously not as big of a miss as Mark Andrews. And Lamar got shook up as well, but I think he's all right now. Like I said, going to be a close game, but just give me the Ravens. I think they're looking like the best team in the AFC right now. Next up then, it's we're going to the NFC South, the best division in football, Callum.
I mean, no one's trying to win that division, are they? Let's be honest. They're all trying to get the better draft picks. And I think there's been another one where it's just an awful game, to be fair.
Yeah, weird division. It's the Saints against the Panthers. What a game. I bet you're looking forward to that one.
It might be the worst game of the week.
Well, it could be.
It might be
it
the
really
worst game
could
of the
be.
week.
Could I see an upset here?
Steelers and Pats are giving off worse vibes, though.
Well, I mean, the Falcons are playing the Bucs, so that's a little bit more interesting in the NFC South. But we'll get to that. It's the Saints against the Panthers. Could be the game of the week for me. Still silent? Yeah, you're still silent. Right,
Still
okay.
silent.
The Saints, they battled back last week, to be fair, against the Lions. Obviously, that first quarter was potentially the worst football I've seen all season from the Saints, and I've seen a lot of bad football. I'm still not convinced by Pete Carmichael or Dennis Allen. A lot of receivers have got injuries. Derek Carr potentially injured. Not sure if he's going to be missing that match. So big boy Jameis Winston could be coming in again. We saw his little cameo last week where he threw into, triple coverage. Brian Branch somehow bats the ball up in the air and it lands in Chris Olave's hands, and that's the only way that really the Saints got back into the game. It was the most Jameis Winston play you've ever seen in your life. And then the Panthers, I know that they're still in a massive rebuild. They obviously struggled again last week, picked up another loss. Surely the Saints can't lose this game. Surely, Callum.
I mean, I almost did predict an upset in this one. I almost went for the Panthers just because both teams don't seem to want to win, if that makes sense. It's like they just keep finding ways to lose. But at the end of the day, logic prevailed in my head. I've gone with the Saints in this one. James Winston is more than likely going to start. I'm pretty sure Derek Carr's going to be out for one injury or another. And to be honest, I think that's the deciding factor for me. I think James Winston, although he has interception problems, he does offer a little bit of flair, a little bit of excitement to this Saints team that without him in there, with Derek Carr in there, just seems to lack all sorts of excitement. And I do think Derek Carr's days in New Orleans are numbered now. But at the end of the day, the reason I'm picking the Saints for this game is they're just not as bad as the team on the other side, and that is the Panthers. We know they're in a rebuild. I don't think anyone expects them to be as bad as they are this season. And I think, in the off-season, they're going to have an overhaul. They're going to have to, get an offensive-minded head coach in there to help this young quarterback out and get some weapons around him as well, because he's really struggling at the minute, and I do feel sorry for him. But yeah, this game is just going to be a step too far with the Panthers. The Saints have still got one of the better defenses in the league, and I think ultimately that will prevail in this one.
Yeah, well, I hope you're right on this one. A couple of weeks ago when the Saints weren't playing on a bye week, my Sundays went really well, and ever since then, I think it's been nothing but disappointment every single time they've played in the last couple of weeks. Big breakout for Alvin Kamara last week. He needed that. The Saints needed that and all that. I hope that momentum continues. Give me the Saints. I can't take a divisional rival ever. I'm not bothered which team it is. So yeah, give me the Saints to beat the Panthers. So,
right,
next up then.
I think I'll go. Next up then, we've got the Bengals taking on the Colts. And let me just first off start off by talking about this Bengals team that everyone sort of wrote off the second that Joe Burrow went down injured. And then this week, they've had an absolutely massive victory over one of the best teams in football, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jake Browning, I mean, what did you think of him? It was his first ever NFL game, I believe. He went undrafted out of college, and he just put up one of the best debuts of any quarterback of all time. So what did you make of him?
Mate, he was phenomenal, wasn't he? Let's be honest. He was throwing the ball here, there, and bloody everywhere. The guy, oh my God, it actually looked like Burrow's 2.0 at one point. I can't believe it's his first game.
He looks like Burrow.
Are they just coaching all the Bengals quarterbacks the same there? They must be. The coaching scheme must be brilliant. Genuinely, I thought he were Burrows at one point playing that game.
And they do look quite similar as well with the helmets on. And I was questioning myself whether it was just like a little robot that's been programmed to copy Joe Burrow. But I mean, 32 of 37, 354 yards and a touchdown. They could not have asked for any more against one of the best teams in the league as well. And obviously they come into this one against the Colts, who, no one is putting on the same level as the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I mean, I just don't. I think the problem is both these teams they seem to be different every single week. 1 week they'll show up and they'll be fantastic like the Bengals were this week, and then the following week they'll lose a howler, and it's been the same with the Colts this season. So I have struggled on this one. The Colts got a very fortunate overtime, I think it was, victory over the Tennessee Titans last week. So both are coming into this one coming off close fought victories. And it could really go either way, but for me, I just have a slight more confidence in the Bengals. Just the fact that how impressive they were on Monday night, I just think it spoke volumes into the fact that the team's not giving up on the season at all, despite what the media is saying. And I expect them to continue the form this week, so give me the Bengals.
Yeah, the Colts, they're actually 1.5-point favourites in this game. The Bengals are evens, and the Colts, they're slightly favourites. So it's a bit of a coin toss. It could go either way, to be fair. I just think when you've got Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss running at you, you stand more than enough chance to win a ball game. Like you said, I've struggled. I've thought about this game all day, to be fair. Probably the first time anyone's ever thought about the Bengals against the Colts in such detail. But do you know, I've still not really come to a decision. I'm going to go against you though, and I'm going to go for the Colts because of that run game. Give me Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor for a touchdown each, and the Colts beat the Bengals and stay within the playoffs. So, moving on then, it's my NFC rivals. It's the Falcons against the Bucs. The good news is one of these teams is going to lose this week, unless they draw. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
To be fair.
Hopefully, it's
not
the
put it past
Falcons
them.
that lose. That's where I want to go with this one. Do I think they're going to lose? I don't think they're going to lose, to be honest. That Falcons defense has been strong all season. It continues to look stronger week on week, and they seem to just be doing a job and getting by. Bit of a strange game against the Jets, though. Did you have you caught that game back yet?
I have watched it, but I honestly can't remember much that happened, if I'm being honest.
Again, another one of them games, though, isn't it?
I was watching the screen, but nothing was sticking in my mind. It was just that dull. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of the games were last week. And, that's pretty much sums up the Falcons season as well, I believe.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I mean, we've talked a lot about Arthur Smith. I'm still not convinced he's the man for the job. I think you agree with me on that as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be his last season as head coach there.
But it's just a weird game. I mean, the Bucs haven't really impressed me. Well, no team's impressed me in the NFC South, you know that. But the Bucs certainly haven't impressed me. Their fans were that said they were going to go 14-3 this season. It's just not happened. I'm still not seeing it at all. Baker Mayfield, he seems to be struggling. He has settled a little bit recently, but I mean, they've only beaten the Panthers in the last few weeks, to my knowledge. That's not impressive by any means. Hopefully I don't eat those words if the Saints lose against them this week. But yeah, again, it's another coin toss game. I think I'm going to go with the Falcons solely because they've got that elite defense, and they've got more than enough weapons on offense. I think they've got more than what the Bucs can offer, and it just makes them a little bit more dynamic. And for that reason, give me the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the exact same boat as you. It's like it's one of those games where I'm not really sure which way I want to pick this one. Might even pick a draw, but you almost talked me into taking the Falcons. That Falcons defense has been very, very good this season. It can't be denied. But for me, I've just got a feeling. There's no logic behind it. I don't think. I've just got a feeling in this game. The Bucs, Mike Evans, he's just gone over 1,000 yards this season for the 10th or 11th straight season. The Bucs just give me the vibes that they're going to come out and win this game in this divisional matchup. That's really it. Really, I'm just going with what my gut's telling me, and it's the Buccaneers. So it'll be probably a pretty dull game, but I'm going to take the Buccaneers. Next up, then, we're going to have another battle of the backups. We've got Cleveland Browns versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just a couple of weeks ago, would have been talking about this as potentially the game of the week if Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence are playing. Obviously, he's down and he's out for a few weeks at the very least. And obviously, Watson's out for the season. So this is really going to be a game of the defenses, I believe. We both know these teams have got good defenses, especially the Cleveland Browns. A top 5 defense in the league, that is for sure. Myles Garrett has been a bit quiet recently, but I do expect them to get back to the best this week, the Browns, and especially that defense. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring, cagey affair. Both teams, trying to fight for a playoff spot now with backups in. But for me, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns in this one. I just think obviously that backup. Who was playing backup? Who was playing quarterback? Sorry, for the Browns last week. Was it?
It was Flacco, Joe Flacco, wasn't it?
Flacco, yeah, it was, wasn't it? So it's hard. It's really difficult to say because we don't know how good the backups are going to play. They're very inconsistent. But I'm going to take the Browns. I trust that defense a lot more than the Jaguars. And that's it for me, really. I expect the Browns defense to win the game for them.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that the Jaguars defense were sort of quietly going under the radar, but they've got some playmakers on that team. We've spoke about Josh Allen before. He managed to get another big interception last week of a strange play from Tyler Boyd. I don't know if that was a bit of a freak play though. I watched that back. I had to rewind that a few times just to. I don't think I believe what my eyes were seeing, but that actually happened. But this Browns defense, it's been solid all season. Obviously Flacco's come in last week. We don't know if he's going to be playing this week or if it'll be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The Browns have had more quarterbacks than I don't know what. But he's had his game now, Flacco. I do think he'll play this game. I think he's probably going to have settled in because of the old Trevor Lawrence injury. And CJ, not Stroud, Beathard is coming in for the Jaguars. He had a little bit of a cameo in overtime. I've not seen enough from him. I can't really make too much of a judgment. So for that reason, the Browns' solid defense. Myles Garrett, he's going to get back on form. Give me Myles Garrett for at least one sack, and the Browns win. Next up then, we're heading to the NFC North, and the Lions have found a bit of form, and they're taking on a Chicago Bears team, which a couple of weeks ago when they played against each other were a lot closer than what I expected. I don't know if it's going to be the same case again this week. The Lions have got home field advantage, which often is a massive thing, and I do think that'll play a big part into this. That Lions offense, obviously, I watched it in a lot of detail last week, and it was painful to watch. But the amount of playmakers they've got, Pin, it's actually, I can't get my head around it. There's so many good playmakers for that team that I could probably spend ages talking about them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this Lions offense especially, and it's like, they've got one of the best offensive lines in football. He's a top 5. They've got 2 of the best running backs in the league, period. Not just as a duo, but period. You could take either one of them, and they'll still be one of the best in the league. And obviously, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, the legend.
Sam Laporta.
It's just full of talent. And last week, the other tight ends were getting involved as well. So, the Lions are a scary, scary team.
They really are. Sam Laporta, he had a massive game last week. I think it were a couple of touchdowns that he got. I know that he certainly won the game with that first down as well. Jared Goff just seems to have been squeezing it through gaps that he just shouldn't have got the ball through. And that's against a good Saints defence, really. They're pretty solid. Easily, I mean, they must be top 10 now, probably not top 5 anymore after the batterings that they've got recently, but that's because of offensive trouble. But the Lions... it was weird. It was just as though they didn't really see the game out as well as they should have. The defense looked strong all the way up until the sort of late third, fourth quarter, and then they started conceding points. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just because the Saints sort of gained a bit of momentum and sort of just kicked on a little bit. But yeah, I think they probably just kick on again this week and they probably get past this Bears team. I've still got the Lions getting the first seed. The schedule looks good to me, and I think they've gone quietly again, a little bit under the radar. I think a few people had wrote them off a little bit when they had a couple of losses, but now they're back with a big win. I think this momentum continues against the Bears this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going to be taking the Lions in this one, but for me, I think the Lions, like you said last week, I think they look a bit naive at the minute, and that's kind of what's putting me off them as a true Super Bowl contender. I think we saw it in the loss to the Ravens as well. Just a bit naive, a bit young, a bit inexperienced at the highest level, and obviously that organisation's been very poor for a long time, and I think that's showing through at times. Obviously, despite being different players, different coaching, I think the culture of the organisation is coming through at times. Obviously, they did well to hang on last week against the Saints, but I think it's another tough test this week. I mean, we say Chicago Bears, you think, a bad football team, but it's an NFC North matchup. They're always dirty, nasty. And, in the other game we saw from them this season, it was a close affair. And again, I expect this to be a close affair yet again. Justin Fields was playing pretty well before the bye, I believe. And, I do think this is going to be a close game, but I think I'd be stupid to pick against the Lions. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, give me this Lions offense especially to put on an absolute clinic. Next up, then, we've got the battle of the NFC West, the 49ers, who are probably now the best team in the NFL, taking on the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, the 49ers are coming off arguably the most impressive win of the season by any team so far. They absolutely demolished the Eagles last week. It was a joyous moment for me. I can't deny. I hate both these football teams, but 49ers I do prefer slightly. Obviously, you've seen the Seahawks. They come off a tough loss to the Cowboys, and what was quite a close game. But again, I just don't see a way the Seahawks can win this football game. I'm sure it'll be close. It's a divisional matchup. Both of these teams hate each other, and for that reason, the players are going to want it more. Both teams are going to up the game, and I think it will be a close game for the most part. But I think when it comes down to it, Super Brock Purdy, and that defense, by the way, the 49ers now they've got Chase Young lined up on the other side from Nick Bosa. That pass rush has been taken to another level. And I think that will be the deciding factor in this one. I think Geno Smith's going to be under pressure all night. Under pressure, it does lead to turnovers with Geno Smith, and I expect that's how the 49ers will come out on top in this one.
Yeah, I mean, what a game. It was a game that everyone was looking forward to. I certainly enjoyed it a lot, to be fair. Nice to see the Eagles get knocked down a peg or two. I watched the game in detail, I watched the game in full, and the 49ers were, apart from the first couple of drives, just phenomenal throughout. If you'd have seen what happened after those first two drives, you'd have thought that the Niners didn't stand a chance. They went 3 and out twice. It were lucky that the Eagles only put up a couple of field goals, because I think if they'd got a couple of touchdowns, then the game might have been just a little bit out of reach even that early on. But the Niners, they came back, and every single drive that they had, they just seemed to score points. And everybody were chipping in as well. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, McCaffrey, Juwan what's going on. I forget his name. Joanne Jennings, I think it is.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
They all had a touchdown each. I think Debo went for 3 touchdowns. And it was just a brilliant performance. The defense seemed to get even stronger as well when Dre Greenlaw got disqualified. So that was a bit of a shock. I thought they'd struggle, and somehow they come out even better. The Eagles, it looked like men against boys, to be honest. And the Eagles just didn't really know what to do. So massive, really huge win for the Niners. Can see that continuing. I've been speaking to a couple of Seahawks fans, and they're not happy at the moment. And they're kind of calling for Pete Carroll a little bit, which is a bit of a shock because he's a bit of a legend in Seattle. Obviously, their offensive coordinator, I found out recently, went to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys look good on offense. But the Seahawks, it sounds like Pete Carroll's chucking in on offense, and they're not happy. So problems in Seattle for me. Don't see them winning this game. The Niners look too good, but probably the best team in the NFL right now. And that's another team that marched towards the first seed. So yeah, give me the Niners, not comfortably because it's an NFC West matchup, but I think they'll get past the Seahawks team.
Yep.
Next up, then we've got the Raiders against the Vikings. Two weird teams, I think is a good way to put it. They win one, they lose one. The Vikings, they've sort of fell off a little bit recently. They went through the whole hype of the Josh Dobbs when he came through from the Cardinals, but I'm not seeing the hype right now in Minnesota. I think that the Packers could pip them for that last seed in the playoffs. I'm not sure if you agree with me on that or not.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on the Packers in a little while, but they found momentum at the right time. The Vikings. Do we trust Josh Dobbs? Do we trust this team after what they went through at the start of the season? It's up in the air for me, that 7th seed in the NFC right now, when the Packers are probably the favourites for it.
Yeah, I just don't really know what to say about the Vikings, to be honest. Do we expect Justin Jefferson back anytime soon? He'd be a massive boost if they could get him. I'm still not convinced by that defense either.
I think with the Jefferson thing, it's a bit like the Aaron Rodgers thing. You don't want to risk bringing him back too early if there's nothing on the line. If you're just going to come back and play football for the sake of playing football, you'd rather him, be sat at home recovering from his injury and come back stronger next season, because it was a severe hamstring injury, and we've seen players who you can have a severe injury and you just never come back the same, and that'd be the worst thing possible for the Vikings. So this, for me personally, I wouldn't be rushing him back, but we'll see.
Yeah. This is two teams that are coming off bye weeks. They've had plenty of time to prepare for this game. I do think I'll probably go with the Vikings, although my gut's kind of telling me to go with the Raiders. I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling here, mate. I really am. I don't know who's going to win this game, to be honest. It's a massive toss-up, but I feel like the Vikings, they just excite me a little bit more than the Raiders right now. Both defenses are pretty poor, I'm not going to lie. Could it be a bit of a shootout? Yes. Just give me the Vikings. I think they've got a little bit more quality than the Raiders.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to go against you this week on this game. I'm not entirely sure why. Both these teams did have momentum before the bye weeks. But there's just something about the Raiders. They can just seem to win ugly. And I think that's what puts them apart from the Vikings. I think the Vikings, for the most part, have let themselves down. I think they should be. We saw at the start of the season they just couldn't buy a win. They couldn't stop turning the ball over. They were beating themselves. They seemed poorly coached. And obviously the Raiders, they got that new head coach partway through the season, and from that it seemed to be a massive turning point for them. They beat some good teams in that stretch. They've now obviously come for bye week. They're getting healthier. The team have got more time together with that head coach to gel. And I just think the Raiders are going to come off the bye week firing. I feel like they want to try and push a playoff spot, whether it's possible or not. They'll probably have to win every single game from here on in. But yeah, there's just something telling me here. The Raiders want it. They're hungry for it. Max Crosby, he'll be hungry for some sacks as well. And Devonta Adams, he's due a big game. So give me the Raiders. Right then, next up, we've got an AFC West matchup, and it's a poor one at that. We've got the LA Chargers, who just come off a 6-0 victory over the Patriots against the Broncos, who obviously come off that tough loss last week. And this game for me, I've no idea what to say about it, to be honest. the Chargers are awful, and they have been all season. They're coming to the season with high expectations, and Brandon Staley's not done the job he was brought in to do. Neither's Kellen Moore. Justin Herbert's regressed this season. And a few Cowboys fans were expecting that. We saw what happened with Dak. He became a turnover machine under Kellen Moore, and Justin Herbert does not seem the same player at times under Kellen Moore. Brandon Staley, I'm sure he'll be gone at the end of the season. Of course, this team is far too talented to be 4-7 or 4-8 or whatever they are in the season. And then you look at the other side of the ball, the Broncos. Obviously, they were on a fantastic run of games. Sean Payton seemed to be getting them firing in the right way. And then last week, I don't really know what happened. They just couldn't protect the ball. They couldn't get anything going on offense, really. They just, they had chances to win that game against the Texans. They should have probably won the game against the Texans. But Russell Wilson, 3 deceptions. It's just unforgivable at this level. And ultimately, they're now 6-6. They can still make the playoffs, but they're going to have to start winning games like this one. I'm just not sure whether I'm confident enough to trust the Broncos to do that. What do you think? I'm still in two minds about this one.
Well, I mean, this is probably going to make it even harder for you, to be fair, because the Chargers are 2.5-point favourites. But you've spoke about Kellen Moore briefly there. I think we're sort of seeing what we saw at the Cowboys, and obviously you know a lot more about the Cowboys than me and the offense under Kellen Moore, and let's be honest, it was pretty disappointing. A lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, as you mentioned, and I kind of think we're seeing that in a way at the Chargers right now. I mean, like you said, they come off a 6-0 win against the Patriots, who, let's be honest, are one of the worst teams in football right now. They've got, the Patriots have got massive turnover problems, so it's not like the Chargers didn't get the ball often, but they didn't score a single touchdown against one of the worst teams in football, so that tells me everything that I need to know about the Chargers right now. Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley. How he's still in a job is beyond me.
Yeah, we're saying all this, and they've got literally one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Is it? At the very least, a top 10 quarterback in the league, Justin Herbert, but more likely than not, a lot higher than that. And I think, if there was a potential, a candidate jumping off the screen at them to replace Brandon Staley, I'm sure they would have jumped at that chance. But maybe they're waiting to see what happens this off-season. I'm sure it will be gone this off-season. And to be honest, with everything you just said, I think you've actually convinced me into taking the Broncos there. I think both of these teams are bad. The Broncos have got a bit of optimism all of a sudden because they won a few games, but the underlying factor is they are a poor team, and I think the Chargers are just a bit poorer, and for that reason, I'm going to take the Broncos.
Yeah, I think I'll be going for the Broncos as well. I'm actually going to take this then as my upset of the week. I don't think you can steal this one off me now, lad, that I've convinced you. Although you did call it first, because you have gone first. But give me a big games for Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I don't really know, to be honest. The Broncos are a strange team as well. I mean, they were 1-5, now they're 6-6, so they've had a big turnaround. Sean Payton's doing a good job. Under Sean Payton, quite literally anything can happen. But I like the Broncos more right now, and I fancy them. I just fancy them more than this Chargers team, to be honest. So then, next up, who we got? I don't know.
We got Chiefs versus Bills.
Potentially game up. This could be. Oh no. Nearly the game of the week. My bad. Cowboys and Eagles fans. Chiefs against the Bills then. And I mean, I've not actually seen the highlights back from the Chiefs against the Packers game. Have you seen that?
Yeah, the Chiefs were not good. They were not good. It wasn't like they got beat by the refs, as people keep saying.
Well, I've heard
they were the worst team on the day.
I've heard all this getting beat by the ref stuff, but haven't they had the refs on side all season?
Even this Packers game, there was calls that late in the game, basically the referees made the wrong call on every opportunity they had late in the game, but against both teams. It wasn't just against Kansas City. But the underlying factor was they did not deserve to win the game against the Packers. So, I'm struggling to think. I'm struggling to know what to think about the Chiefs team at the minute. They lost against the Packers. They didn't lose the game before as well. My memory's gone to shit. But
I'll have to check that. No, they beat the Raiders, but they did lose to the Eagles the week before, so they've lost 2 of the last 3 games, which is not like the Chiefs.
For me, they're just not scoring enough points. That's what it's coming down to at the minute. And also against the Packers, by the way, the defense was probably the worst they played all season. So as soon as that Packers, sorry, as soon as that Chiefs defense slightly went off the boil slightly, the offense couldn't pick up that slack, and ultimately that's what lost them the game to the Packers.
Yeah, no, they're another weird team right now, the Chiefs, and a lot of Chiefs fans are going mad. I've seen in some of the public forums and stuff that they're blaming it on Andy Reid. Not sure about that one when he's took you to the Super Bowl 3 out of the last 4 years, is it? That's something crazy like that. Isaiah Pacheco had a big game, to be fair, against the Packers. Coming into this Bills game, though, let's talk about the Bills a little bit as well here. They had a pretty good performance, to be fair, and arguably deserved to win that game against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, that went all the way to overtime as well, and they only got beat by a field goal. And that was another great game of football. I sat down and watched that whole game, actually. And like I said, it went to overtime and they got beat by 3 points. Could I see the Bills beating the Chiefs here? I think I could, you know.
Well,
the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, sorry, like, on my list here, I've got it in front of me, like, the predictions I was going to make, I was going to take the Chiefs, but I think having this conversation and talking it through, you know, you just reminded me there about the performance the Bills put in against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago. You know, and obviously we know that they fired Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator, just before that game, I think it was.
It weren't. It certainly took the shackles off the offense as well. It really did.
I think you've convinced me. I think I'm changing my mind. I think I'm going to go for the Bills in this one. You know.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about this, mate. This is 2 games in a row. This now. But go on. I agree. I'm agreeing with myself at this point, lad. I'm taking the Bills. I'm actually taking the Bills.
Like I put the Chiefs down here, but in my head now I'm literally thinking I've only picked the Chiefs because it's Patrick Mahomes. Like all the logic and everything else is telling me to pick the Bills. So what am I doing? So basically,
Patrick Mahomes has not been special. He's not been special this season, though, has he? He's just not played up to.
It's still Patrick Mahomes.
I know it is, but he's not been as good. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to say I know because you're going to say because it's Patrick Mahomes, and it is Patrick Mahomes. But the facts are he's not been as good as he has been for the past 3 years. Whether that's down to Patrick Mahomes or not, or just having a slightly weaker receiving core. I mean, you've mentioned that a couple of times this season.
I'm going to say he's been thrown to some absolute mugs this season. Let's be honest with ourselves here. I think me and you do a better job, to be fair, but you know they just can't catch a cold, them receivers. So
well,
it is what it is.
I'd happily trade jobs, mate, if I got given the opportunity.
So I don't know. We decided we were both taking the Bills in this one.
Yeah, I think we are. You know,
Christ.
I'm going with the Bills against the Chiefs. What's it come to?
What's the world come to?
Well, I mean, the Bills are fighting to get into the playoffs, to be honest. So there's more pressure on the Bills right now than the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I feel like if the Chiefs.
Yeah, sorry. If the Chiefs don't win this game, then I think they can count themselves out of the race for the number 1 seed that bye week. You know, in the playoffs, the home field advantage, all that sort of stuff. They can sort of write that off. I don't think they'll be able to achieve that if they lose this game. And for the Bills, obviously, like you say, it's a must-win game to get in the playoffs. And for that reason as well, you know, give me the Bills. They're going to come out fighting. They hate Kansas City as it is. The Bills are going to be hungry for this one, and they're going to be hungry enough to win. So then we do move on to this game of the week, the rematch of a couple of weeks ago. The Cowboys taking on the Eagles in an NFC East blockbuster. You know, if the Cowboys win this game, they go level on record atop the NFC East with the Eagles. Obviously, at the end of the season, it'll come down to, well, if the records stay the same, who's got the most divisional wins and whatever. And I'm just so torn in my head about this game. Obviously, the last game was in Philadelphia. I predicted the Cowboys in that game. That never came to fruition because of 1,000,001 things it felt like at the end of that game where the Cowboys just beat themselves. And ultimately, that's what it was. The Eagles didn't beat the Cowboys last time. The Cowboys beat the Cowboys. But with that being said, flip the coin, look at the Eagles. They've got probably the most humiliating defeat of the Nick Sirianni era. They were absolutely battered by the 49ers last week. I don't think they lost back-to-back games in the last 2 seasons. They're going to be very, very, very hungry coming to this one. They're going to want to prove they are still that team. And it's a very difficult one. It is so difficult to predict. In Dallas as well.
Home field advantage.
I know, but I want to go with my heart. But I'm not. I'm going to go with my head. The Eagles are too hungry. The Eagles want to win this game more. I think the Cowboys have won too many games in a row against bad teams. I think this is the game where they get humbled. and I think the Eagles win in Dallas.
Do you know what we said this last time that the Cowboys played the Eagles, and we talked about all the hype around the Cowboys. They had a couple of wins before they played them, and I said, the Cowboys are just setting all the fans up for disappointment, and that's kind of what happened. You could argue that they had bad refereeing decisions against them. You could argue that the Cowboys beat the Cowboys, which they did. I mean, Dak Prescott stepped out of bounds, as you probably still have nightmares about. But, I mean, interestingly, the Cowboys are actually 3.5-point favourites in this game. So, that really wants me... I really want to go for the Cowboys here. And do you know what? I think I might do. The defense has been nothing short of phenomenal all season. I think they're actually a top 5 offense and top 5 defense. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think that sounds about right. I think.
I love the way that Dak Prescott's playing right now, and I'm not even baiting when I say this. He could be in the conversation for the MVP, and if he wins this game, then he's definitely in the conversation for the MVP this year. And I can't believe I'm saying that about Dak Prescott. I bet you can't believe I'm saying that about Dak Prescott.
I was hating on Dak Prescott at the start of the season. Absolutely slated him. And these last few weeks, he's become a new player, a different player, a confident player. He's changing the plays all the time at the line of scrimmage and just dialing plays open, protecting the ball as well. I think he leads the league in what's it called, like expected turnover plays or something like that. I don't know what the exact terminology is.
Yeah.
But he's thrown the least amount of interceptable balls of any quarterback in the league. He's on absolute fire right now, and all he's got to do is put it together against a big team like the Eagles. He did it last time against the Eagles. He played phenomenal last time against the Eagles, but just like you said, the stepping out of bounds, the catch at the 1-inch line that weren't a touchdown, a million things seemed to go wrong for the Cowboys to lose our game. So we'll see this week. I hope you're right. I hope the Cowboys do come out and win, obviously. But for me, I just think the Eagles are going to have that dog in them this week. They want to bounce back and prove they do run the East.
Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he was still... I mean, he went off shook up. Obviously, the backup came in for the Eagles, so we don't know what the condition he's going to be in. I mean, he's probably going to be 100% fit for this Cowboys game. I think even if he isn't 100%, he's still going to be wanting to play this game. It's a game that you cannot miss. Just looking at Dak Prescott's stats, he went for 299, 3 touchdowns last week. Tony Pollard had a decent game. And then CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's been phenomenal all season, I want to say, to be honest.
Yeah, he really has. Since about week 2 or 3, he's really taken that step to the next level to be that number 1 receiver in Dallas. And, the fans love him. He's such a humble player as well. And he's just special. He's just a special, special player. And
then you've got the likes of Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, Talbot. He's been more involved in the action recently. Your man Shoemaker, as we call him now, it's not Shoemaker, it's Shoemaker. He's become a bit of a meme in the old group chat. I'm sick of saying his name. I think I must say his name daily, and I've seen the guy play once. I absolutely love the guy, and he's a Cowboy. I can't believe I'm saying it. But yeah, I'm going for it, Pin. I'm taking the Cowboys to beat the Eagles. Statement victory, and the Cowboys could potentially be marching towards that first seed as well. I mean, that's 3 or 4 teams that are going to be in the hunt for that first seed come the end of the season, and this is why we love this sport as much as we do. So then, who's next? Let's have a look. We've got a bit of a dead game, to be honest. It's the Giants. Yeah, we've got past the hype, haven't we, really? Be good if we could have just ended it there, but unfortunately, we've got to talk about the Giants and the Packers. And I think I'll start with the Packers because, I mean, what a win. What a win. You know more about this game than me because you've obviously seen the highlights back. I didn't get a chance to catch them. But the Packers, they've gone under the radar a little bit and they're coming into some sort of form. I think they're 6-6 on the season now. Jordan Love certainly looks like he's heating up. I think he went for another 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think in the last 3 games, he's had over 300 yards on 3 touchdowns or some stat like that. I mean, he's in absolutely incredible form. We saw a glimpse of it at the very start of the season and we were hyping up Jordan Love. And then obviously they had that mid-season lull. The Packers couldn't get it right. They looked uncoached. They looked like they were making mistakes. Jordan Love was making mistakes, trying to force balls all the time. In the last 3 weeks, they've completely cleaned it up. They've turned it around. Matt LaFleur is still undefeated in December as a head coach. I think he's like 17-0 in December, which is mental to think about.
I mean, that's an interesting stat line, to be fair, going into December as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
this the first game in December, or have we already had one? Not sure.
Already had one, I think. Yeah, already had one. Yeah, I think it was the Chiefs with the first one. And
yes, it was.
Like you said, they're 6-6, and they've now got a very, very, very easy schedule for the remainder of the season. I think the only difficult-ish game they've got is against the Vikings, which says it all really. If your most difficult game is against the Vikings, then you've got an easy schedule for the rest of the season.
That's crazy. I didn't realise the schedule were that laid back or that easy, to be honest.
Yeah, and they could certainly win out from here. They could win the next 5 games, I want to say.
Well, and 12, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be 11-6. So yeah, the Packers are getting hot at the right time here. And can you see anything that the Giants could do to upset them?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, they have sort of been takeaway machines as of recent. I remember when they played the Patriots a couple of weeks ago, and I think they had back-to-back wins for the first time this season. The QB, DeVito, doesn't look too bad. Just obviously such a young guy coming into such a big team, and obviously in NFL it's a massive step up. He's still obviously not completely settled, and that's probably going to take until the end of the season. But I mean, the pressure's off the Giants, really. They're not really playing for anything right now other than pride, in my opinion, and the fan base. But I don't see the Giants slowing the Packers team down. I think they've just found form at the right time, and they'll probably continue to march towards the playoffs. I can't believe I'm saying that about the Packers, because if you'd have asked me, a month ago, I'd have said that the Packers were pretty much wrote off.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you've just said everything I wanted to say in that little segment there. The Packers are looking phenomenal. They've got seemingly another franchise quarterback caliber player in Jordan Love. He just looks electric, and I think he will completely dominate and take over this game against the Giants. So give me the Packers. And now we move on to the final game of the week. It's a bit of a dead one, I can't lie. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Tennessee Titans. I mean, the Dolphins again, getting hot again. They had a massive victory last week, and a 45-15 victory over the Commanders. I mean, it's not saying a great deal because the Commanders are a very poor football team. But it still says a lot to win by 30 points.
I think we all saw that one coming though, mate. To be honest, it's the Commanders in it. They seem to just ship points for fun, to be honest. I think I actually called it that Tua would throw for at least 3 touchdowns, and I'm pretty sure he did get that. But yeah, the Dolphins are a weird team, aren't they? Like we've said before, they seem to just get past the sort of worst teams quite easily, and then when it comes to playoff teams, they struggle. Obviously, they're coming into this game against a Titans team that are in a rebuild, in a bit of a struggle mode. Lost last week against the Colts. I don't really know what to say about the Titans, to be honest. I think the Will Levis hype somewhat, well, it is over now for me.
Yeah, I mean, he had them couple unbelievable games at the start of his career, and he's not looked terrible since then by any means. I just think that hype's died a little bit. It's not just Will Levis either, by the way. Derrick Henry is getting older. He's nowhere near as productive as he once was.
Well, I think he went out of the ball game actually with an injury, didn't he?
Did he? He might have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went out. He were injured last week. I remember that getting flashed up on the old feed. Which, if he's not available for this game, is going to be a massive miss.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, they've got DeAndre Hopkins, again, not a young player. He's only getting older, so they're in a bit of a sticky spot. I think that the Titans are in a rebuild, like you've said there, but they're probably trying to go as far as they can this season. They're now 4-8 in the season, but when you put them up against a team like this Dolphins team will just score points for absolute fun. They're just not. They can't stop them. Surely they can't stop this Dolphins team with A-Chain's back now. He's having an incredible season, and Tyreek Hill, he's in MVP form again. So
it really is.
For me, I can only see the Dolphins winning this game. I don't see how the Titans can even make it close.
No, I agree completely. I think the Dolphins they blow teams like this out. Can see that continuing. The defense looks a little bit better. But I don't think they've got any concerns in this game. I think they'll outscore the Titans pretty comfortably. Give me Tyreek for another touchdown, and I mean he continues to show MVP form, at least Offensive Rookie of the Year form. Could he win that this year? I think so, and I think the Dolphins will win this game against the Titans.
Yeah, and with that being said, that wraps up this episode of the NFL Abroad podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. And come back for next week's episode of this podcast. So with that being said, See you next time.